Good morning, folks, and welcome to Thursday's English lesson. And it is the big one today. We are writing the problems for our stories. Your starter is to go back through your English work from yesterday, have a look at any comments that I have put on there and see if you can respond to them, improve your work. Just in general, have a look for any corrections and or improvements that you can make. Remember, those are the two different types of editing that you need to be able to do to get the year 5 expected standard. So don't just look for my feedback, make sure that you're reading back through it and seeing if you can edit it as well. Try to use a different color so that I can clearly see where you've gone back and made improvements. When you've done that, come back and join me and we will talk a little bit about what you need to do today. But because you all have very different plans, I imagine that most of you will have your own ideas. Okay, so let's look at the part of our model text that we are focusing on today. So this is the problem. Now, in our example, the build-up is the bit where most of the action happens. And this one's a bit of a strange one because depending on whose point of view you are looking at this, depends on what the problem is. Now, this has got a really short problem for Brightman as the main character, where it's only a paragraph long. However, in your lovely legend tales, I am hoping that we will have a really, really exciting problem that's maybe 2 to 3 paragraphs of twists and turns. This is meant to be the bit that really hooks your reader in, that is the action of your story. And the amount of time that you give for it needs to reflect that. So we need to make sure that the problem's quite a meaty part of it. I don't want to just read, they didn't pay him, so he did this, and then he got paid, that sort of thing. It needs to make sure that you build up some emotion. How are the characters feeling? And I'll go through the things that you need to make sure you include. But one of the big things is to make sure that this is your exciting part, that it doesn't just read as ticking boxes, basically. So the example here for the problem for Brightman. Now, Brightman put on his coat and strode back into the town where he was welcomed as a hero. Everyone stood clapping him on the back and cheering. As the days went by, the town elders began to regret that they had promised so much money. They began to make excuses, and some even pretended, and maybe had begun to believe, that the plague had not been that much of a problem anyway. In the end, they refused to pay Brightman the money that was due. So that is the problem in our model text. Now, here are some things that we need to make sure that we're using in a legend tale. So you need to introduce a setting from the past, which hopefully most of you have done. Fronted adverbials of time, which I know lots of you have been using. Relative clauses to give more information. Have a go at getting those in. Remember, we can add extra information by using which or who in the middle of a sentence with commas around it. I have been trying to push people towards using that in the feedback to your writing. Hopefully some of you will be able to get them in. Describe a human hero, which you will have already done. Use a wide range of sentence lengths. They're a really good way of building up tension, especially when a problem, if you've got sort of 3 short sentences in a row, that can be a really, really effective way of building up tension. Accurately using speech marks, using show, don't tell to describe a setting. If your problem happens in a new setting, then you might want to, at the start of it, write another short setting description describing the new place. The moral we'll talk about tomorrow, and the preamble you've already had a go at. Here as a reminder of the things that I will be looking for in your writing. If you want to go through them further, do pause it on the screens and have a look through to see. It's really useful for you guys to try and put the same teacher hat that I've got on so that you've got an idea of what I'm looking for, because that way you've got more chance of trying to get it in and include it. And there's the last one. Obviously, some of them, like the handwriting, won't work at the moment. Okay, so in your problem, what goes wrong and how do the characters react? That includes their actions, their feelings. You must remember that this is the exciting part of the story. So many of our stories when we're writing in school, we get to the problem and the problem appears and then goes without the reader realizing. I want the reader to really feel like they're in that problem with your main character. The problem can often be 2 or 3 paragraphs long, even in a short story. So that is your job for today. Make sure that you're still going back to Monday's plan as well. I would always recommend reading back through what you've written so far so that you know where you've got up to, what needs to be included next. But I'm looking forward to reading these and giving you my feedback on them.